Week 4 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few defense DST units I have as sleepers this week. The first one, Minnesota Vikings. So this Viking defense, middle of the pack type of defense, I believe, this season. But right here, I like the matchup in London at the New Orleans Saints versus New Orleans Saints this week here. This Viking defense available in 77% of fantasy leagues. And the Saints here, they got a lot of injuries going in to the Friday practice reports. Right now, Michael Thomas, he hasn't practiced with the toe injury. And knowing Michael Thomas, I don't think he's going to go and play this ball game. Jameis Winston, we know he's got the 4 fractures in his back. It's looking doubtful he's going to play in this game. Even if he does, I don't think he's going to put on a good performance. So Andy Dalton, the backup quarterback over there in New Orleans. And right now, this Minnesota defense, I know the first 3 weeks really hasn't done much for fantasy, but Thomas is out and Andy Dalton starting. I think we could see a big ball game from this Viking defense. And believe it or not, in a lot of these London games, we do see a defense have a huge performance. So right now, this is a London game, early ball game here Sunday morning. And right now, this Minnesota Viking team available in tons of fantasy leagues. And if Dalton's quarterback, and I think they could get to him a few times with the sack, he's not a mobile quarterback, really. And also a guy who's good for an interception or two. So right now, I got the Vikings as a sleeper this week. The next defense, the Atlanta Falcons. So the Falcons, they've been pretty decent on defense in terms of fantasy football. But right now, they're still available in tons of fantasy leagues here. And that's why I got them as a sleeper option. Still out there in 97% of leagues for the first few weeks here for the Falcons. Week 1 versus New Orleans, 27 points allowed, 4 sacks, a fumble recovery. Week 2 with the Rams, 31 points allowed, but a sack, 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery for a touchdown, a safety, a block kick. And Week 3 at Seattle, I thought they would have a little bit of a better ball game, but not much in terms of fantasy. 23 points allowed, 2 sacks and an into, but they won the game. So Week 4, I know Jacoby Brissett, I got him as a sleeper in my quarterback section. But right now, this ball game could go either way, and I could see Atlanta at home, maybe make a few plays. Just because Brissett had a good Week 3 doesn't mean he's going to have a good Week 4. They still have a lack of weapons on the outside. Besides Amari Cooper is this Cleveland Brown team, and you never know here with the Falcons. This defense, they do play hard, I'll give them that. They do tackle pretty well. Maybe this week they can make a few plays here if you're desperate for a sleeper option. And the third and final defense I have as a sleeper this week is the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Jaguars, I mentioned them early in the week as a defense to get on waivers. And I know they're versing a tough Philadelphia Eagle offense, but it hasn't stopped the Jaguars before the season. Week 1 at Washington, they got torched in that one. 28 points allowed, a sack, 2 windows, a fumble recovery. Week 2 versus the Indianapolis Colts, they shut them down. I know Michael Pittman didn't play in that ball game, but still an offense with Jonathan Taylor to hold them to nothing is impressive. 5 sacks and 3 interceptions. And last week, I know the Chargers weren't 100% with Herbert banged up playing with the rib injury and Keenan Allen out, but still 10 points allowed, a sack and interception and a fumble recovery. So right now, Doug Peterson, he has this Jacksonville Jaguar team playing hard. He has them playing good football. They're a young unit with a lot of talent. And Urban Meyer, he just didn't get it out of these guys. But this season, you know, it's a revenge game for Doug Peterson, and he wants these guys to play hard. And this week at Philly, everyone's riding the Philly bandwagon, rightfully so. The offense is playing great football. Jalen Hurts looks great. But, you know, this Jacksonville team, they want to prove something as well, that they're not a fluke, a 3-week fluke in the early going. And they're going to want to play good for Peterson versus former team. And maybe this defense can make a few plays in this one. Available in 90% of leagues. I'm not saying go out there and get them and put them in your lineup, but as a sleeper option, you could be worse off. So that's defense DST units I have as sleeper options here for Week 4 of the fantasy football season.